Hashtag no music, no intro. We are back. Another episode of the Saints Block Party podcast. And this time we are joined with the esteemed Mina Kimes of ESPN, Adam and Wolf here. Shout out to Greg for kind of in the back channel setting this up. And it's not a off season, an NFL off season without talking about the Saints. And this has been an very Saints centric off season. But first and foremost, thank you, Mina, for joining us. You are a person of your word. You said during Spencer Rattler's first start against the Bucks, if he had 175 yards, that you would come on the show, and here you are. And the Saints quarterback room looks completely different. But we do this thing because we love Greg. We did this when Jordan Rodriguez of The Athletic came on when she previewed the Rams game with us. If you know Greg, he's Greg. Everyone has a Greg like impression that they do, right? I love Ryan's Greg impression that he does. So sorry to put you on the spot, but like, can you do like a Greg impersonation?
I don't know about that. Probably the best I can do for you.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean,
Thank you.
I don't know about that one.
Thank you for the generous laughter. Thank you, by the way, for wearing a Mina Kimes show featuring Lenny hat. I didn't clock it for some reason when I joined the room. But yeah, we met at the live show in LA.
Yes.
Good to see it. Limited edition hat,
Yes,
not for sale.
I was there. Yes, not for sale. So just wanted to get it happened on just recently on Saturday, the retirement of Derek Carr from the NFL, and everyone's giving the Saints their flowers and Derek Carr their flowers for it being just so amicably done. What was your first thoughts when you saw the news when it came out?
Not surprised, because this has been now rumored to happen for about, I guess, was it about a month ago when we started hearing that it was first reported Derek Carr might not play this season, might not play ever again because of the shoulder injury. Obviously, last year lost to injury, assumed he would come back. That news was surprising to me because I didn't really understand the extent of how hurt he was. But it seemed kind of like a matter of when. And then, of course, when the Saints took a quarterback, Tyler Shuck, at the beginning of the second round, that also seemed to reinforce the likelihood that Derek Carr wasn't going to play. So yeah, I mean, you guys, I'm sure have looked at the cat ramifications, which are good. I don't, it's all, it's spectrum of good for you guys. It's all relative, but I think it's kind of ripping the Band-Aid and starting a new era of Saints football.
No, I mean, it's funny because the Saints are kind of being forced to rip the Band-Aid off. Even though they want to, like, fighting and screaming, it was particularly Mickey Loomis fighting and screaming not to reset. They're in a reset now, you know what I mean? And the situation is so funny the way it happened because we on this podcast just pushing for them to move on from Derek Carr before we got to free agency. Team was putting out that hey, Derek Carr is a good quarterback. We could win with him. And we just constantly pushed for the fact like, hey, let's start this. I mean, reset, start over, however you want to call it, but let's just start with a clean slate. And they tried to push against it for the longest. Now it just seems like the football guys or whatever. I mean, you hate to, I mean, it's an injury caused by injury, right? So you don't want to celebrate that. But we happy to move on. That's all I'm saying. Like, Saints fans are just happy to move on from that chapter. God bless Derek Carr, whatever happens to go in the future, but we happy to move on. It's not a question, just a rant.
Yeah. We had our rant on Saturday on NFL Daily with Greg. You had a lot of love for Tyler Shuck going into the draft, and I would say he's a very decisive prospect. How do you see him fitting into Kellen Moore's offense?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Because Kellen Moore has called so many different types of offenses in the NFL, so I think you kind of have to start there. thinking back, like what he did in Philadelphia was wildly different from what he did in LA and Dallas, and maybe more similarities between those two teams, really reflecting the quarterbacks that he had. I think Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert have a lot more in common with each other than they do with Jalen Hurts. So I think as a Saints fan, first of all, that's great. This isn't a coach coming in who's like, this is my system, we're going to run my offense, and the quarterback has to fit to it. He has shown adaptability. I thought the work he did in Philadelphia was really excellent and should be really encouraging for Saints fans. So to go back to your question, you know, I was kind of thinking back to when they drafted him, I was thinking back to those different offenses and what might be a good fit for Shuck. And I think you're going to see elements of both of them, but I also think it has to be a little bit more, I would say maybe similar to even what Clint Kubiak did this past year, which is to say Tyler Shough is a quarterback you can put under center. You definitely want to run a lot of play action. You want him attacking downfield, which is also the Saints receivers are very much the kinds that you want to attack downfield with. He's got a big arm, and you really have to find a way to alleviate pressure. I mean, that's his biggest weakness by far. We can talk about that and get into it. And that's true of any quarterback, but this is an offensive line that's undergoing a bit of transition. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for Kellen is maybe not even so much calling an offense around the young quarterback, but calling it around the young offensive line and figuring out how to mitigate pressure on that young quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, with the selection of Kevin Banks Jr. in the first round, it seemed like that's what the plan was, right? Like let's solidify offensive line, even though they've drafted offensive line continuously for the last I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Hopefully they get it right this time. And with the quarterback that look, if you watch him enough, you can't deny that when that pocket gets a little choppy, gets a little shaky, his feet get a little choppy.
The ball's coming out, by the way. He does not want to get sacked.
Sounds like Derek Carr.
Kind of like Derek Carr, I know. He's more athletic than Derek Carr, though.
Yes.
Which I think that's going to be interesting to go back to your question about Kellen Moore. Like, you're definitely going to bake in a lot of quarterback movement into this offense.
Yeah.
No, which is interesting because some of the clips we saw from rookie minicamp, there was a lot of RPO stuff, and I mean it's just rookie minicamp, but still was like interesting because I've seen past rookie minicamps and you just didn't see a lot of that in Saints because the Saints didn't have those type of quarterbacks. And look, the guy can move, man. Like especially if you go look at something like his, TTU and Oregon stuff, he can move. That's a fact.
It's one of those things, and this is what Ryan and I really is with the injuries and everything. It just feels like if you look, and it's hard to find, but if you look at the games he started at Oregon, he started at Texas Tech, you wonder if because of the injuries, it made him gun shy of just being in the pocket. Because if you go back and watch his earlier games in college, he did, he kind of stood down at the barrel more. He stood in the pocket more when pressure was around him. The injuries happened with the collarbone, with the femur, and his last year at Louisville. It seemed like there was a change in the shift, which is completely understandable, right? I was using the example a little bit of Michael Penix when we kind of talked about in the past, how he had those injuries, and yet he became more of a pocket passer, but he stands in there.
Tough, yeah.
And it's one of those things of his. And I told Ryan, like, if I was Kellen Moore, I would be telling Tyler Shuck to, like, hey, go have a conversation with Michael Penix. And they have very similar paths of injuries, and yet Michael Penix stands in there. Something that I was told from one of my sources is that right now, like, Mickey Loomis really wants Shuck to kind of be the starter. And yes, there's going to be a quarterback competition, but like unless he like completely is just getting mollywopped in the quarterback competition, all indication is like Shuck's going to be the week 1 starter. But I do wonder if, preseason training camp, if Rattler is showing this, Rattler does stand in the pocket and stands in pressure. I wonder if how close that competition really could be, if there is going to be any competition at all.
I was asked about this on NFL Live this week, whether or not I thought there should be a competition. And the first thing I said, and I know we have jokes about the agenda, and I swear I'm not saying, and I've never really said like, oh, Spencer Rattler, he's the truth, he's this hidden gem or whatever. But I am going to say something that I believe, which he was absolutely set up to fail last year. I mean, that was an unbelievably disastrous situation for a quarterback. Offensive line in shambles. Chris Olave missed most of his games, I believe, if I remember correctly. So, bottom tier group of receivers, lack of a run game. Like it was, so I think he deserves a chance, and I do think he has arm talent, he has athleticism, he has toughness. But watching him last year, there were times where I thought he didn't. There were issues with accuracy and decision making at times, no doubt. Yep. Any rookie quarterback would probably have those in those situations. I think with regard to Shuck, though, what I would be concerned about is when you have quarterback competitions in the summer and in the preseason, sometimes if a quarterback's biggest weakness is pressure, you don't see that, right? When they're not going up against like real legitimate pass rushes. And so he actually might be the kind of quarterback who looks better than he is in the summer. I would throw that, and I like him. So, I can talk about the things I like as well. But he might have a little bit of an edge just because of the nature of what summer football is.
No, that's an interesting point when you think about it. I guess it puts the onus on the preseason games on what you can garner from those preseason games.
Joint practices.
Yeah, especially those. Those would be fascinating. I just feel like. And this is not like Spencer Rattler homerism or, the agenda bias, or all that type. It's like, it just would make sense for me for the Saints to at least start the season with Spencer Rattler. You got a new head coach, first-time head coach, young, 35 years old, going to be play calling and being a head coach at the same time, completely new staff, new operation. It's going to be messy. Like, those first couple of weeks are going to be a mess. And to me, like, if you want Shough to succeed, you would kind of just get the whole situation figured out first. Poor Spencer Rattler, that's just not giving him a chance again, poor guy. But then, eventually, maybe in October or whatever, come week 5, week 6, then you let Shuck get up in there and do his thing, It's not fair to Spencer Rattler, but I mean, it is. Once you draft another quarterback, that just kind of is what it is,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What do you think?
Well,
how would you do it? Like, how would you
I know. It's tough. Yeah, I think one thing I'd really like to get a feel for is the state of my offensive line. So we can talk about evaluating these quarterbacks, but I'd be interested in terms of, or from an organization, and okay, how does Banks Jr. look like? How do we see this group coming together? Are we comfortable with him starting at tackle if that's the direction they want to go in? I mean, he's kind of gotten lost in all of this. That was actually one of the more surprising draft picks of round 1, and I really liked it. I know Saints fans have mixed feelings about Shuck, the Shuck pick, but like, given the state of the franchise, I love that they took an offensive tackle there and not a quarterback in the first round, personally. So, I know that there's some scarring over the recent picks tackle, but he's a good player. He was a guy that I watched a lot of early on, just watching Quinn Ewers because I always start with the quarterbacks, and I just constantly was noticing him. Georgia game in particular, I just couldn't take my eyes off him, both in terms of pass protection and as a run blocker. I thought he was really smooth, really pro ready. I think he is a natural left tackle, by the way. So I think over the summer, to go back to your question, if you feel like, okay, this offensive line is gelling, our interior is healthy, we have good players, Fuanga year 2 takes a leap, and Banks Jr. looks good, then you feel a little bit more comfortable with the Tyler Shuck maybe than you would if you felt like the offensive line was similar to last year.
Yeah. And I think we've watched a lot of Banks prepping to like break him down for our podcast. I feel like he's a really good prospect, especially like just like a left tackle prospect. I think he's a very good prospect. But then like hearing what I've heard of how the Saints is like they drafted him, but then they don't know where they want to play him. And it's just like, that's the thing where it's just like
they might kick him in a guard, you're saying?
Potentially, like when they drafted him, they had no plan of where he was just like the best player available. They was like, all right, we're just going to take him. And it's just like, those are like the things. There's like, oh, that's my team. Cool.
They keep talking about putting the best 5 on the field, which I understand, but
Hey, at least they're calling it on Penning, though. Honestly, some teams, like, first round draft pick, they take way too long. They don't.
But even then, it's like they may play Banks at left guard potentially. Like nothing's set in stone.
Yeah, okay,
But
never mind.
then,
They're not calling.
but then if that's the case, then like Penning would still, in theory, potentially be like starting right tackle. Like that's the little like intricacies. Where it's just like if he's like one of the best left tackle prospects, like just keep him at left tackle, shift Fuaga to like his natural right tackle position, and just move forward. And like those little things is just like, my team, cool.
Oh
Cool.
man, oh man. Can I tell you the things I like about Shuck? Because I want to like turn the vibes around here.
Yeah, the
mean-
vibes are good. Like I think they're watching him. He's grown on me. He's definitely grown on me. But yeah,
Grew on me a lot. I was like, who is this, geriatric quarterback?
AARP.
They actually, with we were on it live talking about this, and Graciano was like, yeah, with the Derek Carr retirement news reaction, he was like, now the Saints have a young quarterback room, and I couldn't help I was like, do they? No, but he's older than Rattler, right?
Yes.
Gotta be, yeah.
On the
So
same age, something like
first of all, I feel
No,
like,
he's 26. Rattler's like 22.
that.
Yeah,
No, Rattler's not
Yeah.
22.
23.
by the way,
Actually,
Spencer Rattler, lovely in person, lovely guy, so nice. I had a chance to meet him at the Kelsey's Super Bowl party. I took a photo and posted it. But he's really tall too. Or not really tall, but I thought he was smaller. He's quite tall. But he was very cool. I don't know if you guys saw. He's aware of the agenda. I asked him. I was
Of
like,
course
"Are
he
you familiar?" And he kind of laughed. He was like, "Yeah, I see." He's like, "I'm just," and I was like, "Dude, you were not in a good situation," and he didn't take the bait or anything. He was like, he's like, I've been in tough situations, which was certainly the case in South Carolina. But in any case, I mean, I feel like for the first time in a while, at least the Saints are like trending in a better direction with the Carr retirement, finally cap clearing in the
Yes.
future. I just pulled up the 2027. If Saints fans, you want to feel good for the first time in a long time, put up 2027 cap rankings on OTC. Carr's out. You always knew there was a ceiling there, so at least you're no longer capping your prospects. You're finally accepting the fact that yes, maybe they're not completely rebuilding, but at least they're going young at quarterback this year with no actual. Tyler Shuck's a second round quarterback. If he ain't good, they're gonna move on next year. So yeah, and you're focused on the offensive line, which is really important. And by the way, I thought you would hire like the worst head coach because it was such a like difficult job, and I think actually y'all came out of this with like a pretty decent. I mean, I
Could've
didn't.
been worse.
Yeah, like I'm a fan. So let's start from there. As far as Tyler Shuck goes, I was not. I was just very skeptical of him, and I was immediately just like really blown away by his arm talent. I'm sure you guys have seen the same. Like he is.
Yes.
He can make some NFL ass throws, and
Oh, my goodness, yes.
he can make them. It's funny because it's not funny, but he's obviously awful under pressure and very allergic to contact, but he has the kind of arm talent that hypothetically would get him out of that. He can throw from different platforms. He can access different arm angles. You mentioned that they were doing RPOs, like that he should be an RPO quarterback because he has that ability to like sidearm it. He can throw really well on the run. The touchdown against Notre Dame, I think I posted, is one of the best throws on the run you'll see of any prospect in this class. And he has like legitimate NFL caliber mobility. Like, he's not obviously like a top 5 or whatever mobile quarterback, but QB run can be baked into this offense. And you mentioned Penix and the injuries. True, Penix is tougher in the pocket, but Tyler Shuck's a much better athlete at this point, in my opinion.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there is a lot to like, honestly. I really think and this is obviously a big if your pass protection is decent, you can absolutely build an offense around him. But that's a big question mark.
So what I was told was that there were 3 teams that really loved love is strong, but like really liked Tyler Shuck in the draft process. The Saints, the Eagles, and the Browns. Now I'm gonna ask you to guess if you could think why the Eagles liked Tyler Shuck so much and who he reminded them of.
Oh gosh, that's funny. Well, I guess when
that played for them.
yeah, I know. No, who he reminded them of?
Who played
Oh
for them.
God,
Won them a Super Bowl.
I know he really doesn't remind me of Nick Foles. If that's who you're,
Yeah.
I don't know about that, man. He's really tall and white.
But like if you like squinting at it, I was like, yeah, like maybe.
He's a much better athlete.
Much better athlete.
No question.
I guess similar arm talent. I could see that too. I'm not surprised that the Eagles liked him, irrespective of the comp, though. By the way, because having talked to people there, he has a lot of the types of traits they do like in quarterbacks.
The thing that worries, the thing when I watched a lot of, because it was hard to like watch like find games of him, but like the thing that worried me a lot, and I'm not trying to make the Derek Carr comparison, is like he's a very high variance player, is like what I would kind of say.
Yeah.
In that, in terms of like sustaining drives and just making like a lot of consistent throws to like, I don't know, matriculate the team down the field, like in comparison to like, let's say Cam Ward, I would say if you didn't watch his game, you maybe didn't realize like he could matriculate Miami down the field.
Yeah.
Sustain drives with throws. And with Shuck, maybe whether it be not liking pressure, that's something you have to do that in the NFL. Like you have to be able to consistently sustain drives, and that's something that's my just biggest worry of him as a prospect. Not saying
it's valid. It's valid. He's not a playmaker to the same extent. Although there are it's weird because it actually is very similar to Carr in that like earlier on in Carr's career, you would see flashes of the ability for him to make plays on the run or on the move. He had that ability, and he just wouldn't do it. Or, by the way, he had a huge arm, and there were years where he just wouldn't throw downfield. And but it was insane.
The Raiders fans.
Yeah, Derek Carr, I will always say this, man, one of the most mechanically gifted. Like, I love watching him throw the football, and yet there were just times where he wouldn't push it downfield. And I think that's going to be more so than the pressure thing for Shuck. Like, look, this Saints offense should be all gas, no brakes. Like, there's zero reason for him not to have like a 10-plus average depth of target with these receivers, if assuming Olave's healthy. Will he do it?
Do you have a comp for Shuck?
God.
I don't
think I thought of one out of the draft. I'm trying to think. Current or former players. I have to think on that. It's definitely not Nichols.
It's a hard comp to come up with, because I don't know. Just the more I watched him, I couldn't really pin him down. But the thing I really do like about him though is just watching his interviews and stuff. I really like him as from what I know about him. He seems like really a good, smart guy. Obviously mature. They keep saying that he's very mature. The worry I do have is like he only played like 25 or 26 games.
Yeah. This is quiet. Yeah. Everybody thinks he's played a ton of football. He actually.
Yeah, like he's experienced in life. But,
25, like 20, 26, he has like a kid. Like, no, he's not the kid, but he's like married. He has a dog, Murphy, but like, that's about it.
Jackson Dart has more pass attempts than him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So it's just one of those things where I just hope they, in a rush to like get him on the field, find out like don't just throw him out there willy nilly. Like it's okay to see what you got, Spencer Rattler. It's okay. Like it won't be the end of the world, even if he looks good. I'll say Spencer Rattler just looks fine.
Yeah.
Maybe not great, but just fine. That's okay. And once you're done, you move on to Shough and Shuck. It won't piss anybody off or anything like that.
The hope is that Kellen Moore, who, by the way, I can't remember, somebody told me this pretty high level person on a team. Moore wanted this job. Like, it was the last job, Philadelphia, if I remember correctly. Like, everybody was like, I don't know what he wants this job. And then Kellen Moore took it, and I was a little bit like, well, there's 32 jobs. You take it if it comes. You never know when you get another chance. Look at Bobby Slock, right? And I said that to someone. They're like, no, you got it twisted. He wanted this job. So my hope is that means he got some assurance that, hey, we know that we're not good this year. We understand, we got this guy hanging around. His name's Mickey Loomis for some reason. He's still in the facility. But 2027, that cap's clearing. So my hope is that, they make decisions out of, with a long-term view for the organization. Because some of the decisions Lewis made this offseason don't make any sense to me in that framework. But from a coaching perspective, he does have the ability to think more long-term.
So we only have maybe like 6 more minutes with you. We spend a lot of time talking offense, but the huge other part of this team is the defense. Brandon Staley is now back as defensive coordinator. They added Justin Reed, and then after drafting Tyler Shuck, like they went heavy defense in the draft. Brought back a lot of defensive players on the team. It just feels like a defense that is. I don't want them to take a step back, but it also feels like a defense that is also primed very much to take a step back because a lot of their defensive stars or former past stars are aging vets. They're getting older, and the last time we kind of saw Brandon Staley when he was the head coach of the Chargers, when he had, Mac, Bosa, Derwin James, like that just didn't work. How do you view this Saints team that's, converting into a new defensive scheme under Brandon Staley?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I was looking at some of the picks to see if kind of I felt like they were made with Staley's scheme in mind. I didn't really get that impression necessarily, or like the free agency decisions they made. I mean, Justin Reed, you bring in very good player in my opinion,
Yes.
very smart player, which is important, especially when you're undergoing a bit of a scheme change. But I think your read on is right. Because they're aging and because they haven't really landed on any stars as of yet, it's likely to continue sort of either being like middling to worse unless a few things happen. I think if McKinstry takes another leap at corner, that would be extremely helpful for them. Corner, yeah, it is.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of the weaker corner groups in the league right now. Um, I thought Granderson is quietly one of the more underrated players. He's a very good player, and I know they paid Chase Young, but you really need to see Chase Young earn that contract, and but like looking at the group, I mean, the spine of the defensive tackle remains a problem. I thought something that they would maybe address more than they did. It's very much a group in transition. I mean, like, who are the younger players? Who are the players that you're excited about on this defense? Let me ask you that.
On defense, I mean, you said like Kool-Aid McKinstry. Watching him last year, like he was always where he needed to be, but just like a beat or two late. Always just a beat or
Yeah.
two late, and that's something you can get better at with experience. It looked like I don't know if they planned on it, but they looked like they did shore up the middle of the defense for the most part this offseason. They got Gottschall from New England. They drafted Broughton out of Texas, a defensive tackle. They brought Justin Reed in. They drafted Sanker, another safety. They drafted a linebacker. So it just seemed like they're trying to help the middle of the defense a little bit. But I mean, like you said, corner is still a weakness, which was a strength, like for the longest.
Yeah.
With Marshawn Lattimore and Paul.
We'll see. I think they sold at the right time on Lattimore, but that's
They did.
Right?
They did.
I think so. But it's hard. It's hard to find. Like Brian Bresee, he
real step back.
in that.
Really disappointing to me last year, Bresee, I felt.
I think there's more there. I'm not as disappointed.
He was good a year
as
ago. I was, yeah.
What? But I think there's more there for Bresee. You know what I'm saying? But it's like as far as like stars that you're excited about, like I can't wait to get this guy on the field. Man, it's tough. It's tough to find.
Yeah, I don't have anybody. Kool-Aid, like I'm excited for Kool-Aid and his ascension.
Quincy Riley, baby.
He's a fun player. I caught that pick. Yeah, just look at now. That's an interesting.
We'll see what happens with Asante Samuel Jr., who had neck surgery, and we've kind of been hinting who did them yesterday.
A reunion with Staley, that would be good fit.
That may happen later in the summer potentially, but it's like and that's the thing, I guess, with the younger quarterback, whoever it is, if it's Rattler, if it's Shuck, like you could be in some shootouts, like it's
like that thing.
like yeah. So, I don't like doing this, but like since we have you on the spot, we're wrapping up. Again, thank you so much for coming on. But usually, like the Vegas win total for the Saints right now is 5.5. The Saints felt that Tyler Shuck would be a good. Their logic for drafting him, what we heard, was that he could be a good cheap bridge quarterback, which I don't know if that's a whole nother conversation of like, do you invest a
second round, yeah,
pick for a good? But I digress. But 5.5 wins with this current team. You know, things can change in the offseason. They may, there may be more players added or what have you. How are you feeling for them going into next season?
It feels pretty accurate. If you can guarantee me that Olave plays most of the games in the season, I'll go over. But that you have to make that guarantee to me.
I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, I know.
Don't worry.
I have
I'm
Spencer.
like,
I got a lot.
Don't worry. We have Brandon Cooks on deck in case he doesn't play.
I got Brandon Cooks and Tyler Shuck, and they have a lot in common. They're about the same age, I feel like. I have Rattler and Olave on my dynasty team, by the way, so I'm very invested in this.
Okay.
I had Derek Carr. I'm like the Saints of my dynasty league, y'all. Like, I am aging rapidly. I need to get younger bad. Yeah.
Right. Anything else for Mina before we let her go?
No. I just appreciate you coming on and keeping your word. Our listeners couldn't wait. I mean, they've been asking for months. Well, really about a year, almost a year. Like, when is Mina coming on? I'm like,
oh man.
Right, man.
Well,
Like,
listen,
busy woman, very busy woman. So I really appreciate it.
If either Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler ball out, I'll have to come back on so we can celebrate. Because I'm rooting for both those guys.
Or if they don't, then the Saints are like going to be picking like top 3.
Hey.
So like either way we win.
Or whatever, yeah.
So
keep it local.
But thank you so much for gracing us with your time, Mina. We appreciate it, and our listeners appreciate it greatly. Also, shout out to Greg for reaching out to you, for making this happen. We appreciate you coming on. Guys, Mina Kimes of ESPN. Make sure you listen to the Mina Kimes Show.
Featuring Lenny. Yeah, by the way, Saints fans, where you are mentioned in my latest pod, I'm not going to explain the context. I will explain the context. It's my top 5 fan bases, but you got to listen to find out where you are.
Okay,
all right.
Fair enough.
But you're not going to like my number 1 fan base, so maybe.
Oh no!
Yeah.
If you say the Seahawks, we will riot.
Definitely not the Seahawks. Come on.
Okay.
Your mortal enemies.
Ew. Wait.
Tough way to lose, or to end, rather.
All right, Mina. Also, a belated Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. We will be back tomorrow with a double-headed episode with Greg Cosell, follow with Jane Slater of NFL Network. It was a very busy week for us. We appreciate you guys. We love you. We will be back tomorrow. With that, we are out.
Peace.
Now I'm just trying to imagine Greg Cosell and Jane Slater having a conversation.